This is the story of how an HOA president, let's call her Veronica Thorne, tried to steal my 3-acre private island, a place I call Sanctuary K, and why she failed so spectacularly. I knew the instant that sleek, charcoal gray dinghy idled next to my dock. Veronica, sitting stiff-backed, her eyes hidden behind those enormous, ridiculous white sunglasses, that this wasn't just about the height of my mailbox or the shade of my cabin siding. This was a hostile takeover, a full-blown power grab for a $4 million slice of my piece, and the people coming after me had no idea they were picking a fight with the county's chief deputy sheriff, Jared Vance, himself. 3 years ago, my life was just routine, you know? Coffee, patrol, and dealing with folks fighting over property lines and loud bass. Then my Aunt Clara passed away, God rest her soul, and she left me the lake house and this tiny, man-made island smack in the middle of Osprey Lake. I thought she was being poetic, maybe left me a sandbar or something. But nope, this woman, my brilliant, stubborn, eccentric Aunt Clara, had spent 30 years hauling in gravel, reinforcing the shoreline, and getting it registered as an independent, sovereign parcel. She literally built a legal fortress, one that the state taxed, the county recognized, and that every HOA within 50 miles had zero authority over. I didn't get the genius of that until much later that I finished her work. Built a modern, solar-powered micro-cabin, rainwater filtration, the whole 9 yards, totally off-grid, totally permitted. My wife, Sarah, called it our unplug zone. No sirens, no radio calls about speeders, just quiet. And I needed that quiet, especially when I spent my days dealing with humanity's worst impulses. Then Pinewood Estates popped up on the Eastern Shore. Think mandatory golf memberships, brochures with phrases like elevated lifestyle curation, and lawns cut with laser precision. I figured they'd stay on their side, keeping their pristine, pre-packaged lives to themselves. But then came the brochures, one washing up on my shore, showing an aerial view of Osprey Lake where my island, my Sanctuary K, was blurred out, a gray smudge in the postcard perfect center. That was the first flicker of suspicion. The next thing I know, here comes Veronica on that fancy dinghy, flanked by her 2 attack dogs, a slick lawyer named Bryce and her PR assistant, a woman perpetually clutching a leather-bound clipboard. She steps onto my dock, doesn't even wait to be invited, and extends a perfectly manicured hand. "Lovely spot you've cultivated here, Mr. Vance," she says, her smile bright, but her eyes absolutely dead. "Such a shame it isn't accessible to the community." "It's not part of your community, Veronica," I replied, drying my hand slowly, making it clear I wasn't intimidated by her little field trip. "Ah, but this lake," she said, with that practiced politician's tone, "has recently been voted into the Pinewood Estates jurisdiction. We're updating our records." I blinked slowly. "You mean your HOA voted, among yourselves, to claim a legally deeded parcel of land that predates your existence by 30 years? Bryce, the lawyer, stepped forward, puffed out his chest, ready to quote some bogus statute. "Actually, when an HOA expands jurisdiction, I cut him off stone cold. "It doesn't. Not over land it doesn't own, not over water it doesn't manage, and definitely not over an island that's a sovereign parcel. Now, show me your warrant." Veronica's composure froze, and that was the moment the alarms went off inside my head. As a lawman, I've been lied to by con artists and drug dealers, but Veronica was gift-wrapping something truly ugly, wrapped in linen and HOA jargon. I looked her dead in the eye and asked the only question that mattered. "What's the real reason you're here?" She folded her arms. "We want to bring the lake into full harmony with our community vision." "No," I corrected. "You want to turn my island into a cash cow." She didn't flinch, but her eye twitched. "It would be easier for everyone if you cooperated, Deputy Vance." "I'm not joining your HOA," I said. "HOA membership is irrelevant here," she replied sweetly. "Not yet." That subtle threat, that's what rattled me. The next morning, I was in my deputy uniform, hitting the county records office. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking for facts. And what I found made my blood run cold. Veronica's team had quietly filed a petition to reclassify the lake as a community-managed recreational ecosystem, wording designed to tug at the heartstrings of county officials who didn't understand the landmine buried inside. Worse, the accompanying documents, which I got from my trusty records clerk, Drew, led me to a shell company, Crestline Delta Holdings. And there it was, a glossy concept rendering titled Pinewood Wellness and Luxury Expansion, Phase 2. Right where Sanctuary K was supposed to be, there was a 2-story glass villa, private docks, solar cabanas. MY Island wasn't a nuisance to her. It was a missing piece in her multi-million-dollar puzzle. And then I saw the email. Pending successful jurisdictional resolution of the island encroachment issue, Phase 2 construction can begin. Please confirm removal timeline of the current occupant. Occupant. Not owner, not deed holder. Occupant. As if I were squatting, that's when I knew she wanted war, and I drove straight to my lawyer, Cassidy. They're trying to bury you in inspections, restrictions, maybe even temporary demolition orders, Cassidy warned. They're trying to suffocate the island slowly. I wasn't going to let that happen. But Veronica wasn't waiting for the legal process. First came the harassment. Pinewood started building an enormous, overfunded community pier right across from my island, a public access anchor point meant to claim proximity and influence. Then, they sent their own Pinewood Lake watch boat, 2 guys in shiny, fake uniforms, claiming to conduct a compliance inspection. I literally laughed in their faces, untied their boat, and shoved their bow off my dock. That badge, I told them, you could buy a pack of those online for $14.99. You have no jurisdiction. But the line they crossed, the real line, came 2 days later. I woke before dawn, and everything was too quiet. I went to check the utility shed, and the solar conduit, thick, insulated, durable, had been cut clean through with bolt cutters. It wasn't a technical failure. It was sabotage. Then, near my filtration line, I found a small black device, blinking green, a professional industrial-grade GPS tracker that I took it to my cyber expert friend, Nate. For minutes later, he had the results. This unit is registered to Northern Apex Risk Solutions, he said. That was the security company tied to Veronica's husband, Aaron. Then Nate rotated the laptop screen, and the tracker was linked to a parent company for remote monitoring. Thorn Industries Group. Karen's husband. Same last name, same type of money, same smug entitlement. Every fake inspection, every drone photo, every move flowed back to the HOA president's family. This wasn't harassment. It was a funded, coordinated, criminal conspiracy that I returned to Sanctuary K that night, adrenaline thrumming, and set up extra trail cameras with cellular uplinks. At 3:14 a.m., the motion alarm screamed. I grabbed the extinguisher and sprinted out. The wooden walkway connecting my main path to the dock was engulfed in fast, hungry flames. Arson Point 10 minutes later, with the fire finally smothered, my lungs burning, I checked the remains. The cameras were smashed, but I found a small, half-melted scrap lying among the ashes, the laminated corner of something scorched, but unmistakable, the Pinewood Estates HOA logo. They didn't even try to hide it. They wanted me scared. They wanted me gone. Instead, I felt something else, cold, focused, resolved. She was about to discover she wasn't facing a homeowner. She was facing the chief deputy sheriff that we worked through the night. Cassidy and I prepared filings, emergency motions to freeze the HOA's discretionary accounts, demands for a judicial review of governance misconduct, and a request for a criminal investigation into Northern Apex. Nate managed to pull a single, intact image fragment from a shattered trail camcorder. A partial view of a hand holding the blunt tool. A hand with a distinct tattoo. The same tattoo we'd seen on Aaron Wilson in a corporate retreat photo. When the hearing day arrived, the courthouse was packed. Veronica walked in wearing pearls and a tailored pastel blazer, smiling sweetly, playing the role of the burdened community leader. Her lawyer, Bryce, began by dramatically claiming unregulated development. Then, Cassidy began her counterattack. She presented every permit showing the island was a sovereign parcel. Then came the bombshell, the Crestline Delta investor deck, the emails using the phrase current occupant, the Northern Apex GPS tracker serial number, the surveillance balloon invoice, and finally, the enhanced image of Aaron Wilson's tattooed hand at the scene of the fire. The courtroom exploded in gasps. Veronica's face went from pale to pink, then a dead white. The judge leaned forward, his voice like cold granite. Mrs. Wilson, given the evidence, I am issuing the following orders. All construction and enforcement by Pinewood Estates is to cease immediately. HOA discretionary accounts are frozen pending audit. This matter is now referred to the county prosecutor for potential criminal investigation for fraud, unlawful surveillance, and conspiracy to commit arson. It was over. The audit that followed uncovered financial mismanagement so outrageous it could have been a reality show. Community dues funneled to shadow companies, payments to Northern Apex disguised as consulting fees, and that $/$12 for $78 surveillance balloon to spy on me. Veronica and Aaron Thorne were arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 12 years in prison. No parole for at least 5. The illegally built pier was torn down, the HOA dissolved, and the signs vanished like ghosts. I rebuilt my dock using composite materials that fire won't eat through, upgraded the solar, and installed a camera system with redundant cellular uplink. And then I installed the one sign I knew Aunt Clara would have loved. It was cedar, bolted firmly in place, and it simply read, private property, sovereign parcel, not subject to vote. The reward wasn't the victory or the headlines or the claps on the shoulder in the grocery store. It was standing at the end of my new dock, my kids fishing beside me, the water calm again, quiet, peaceful, and untouched, that a few months later, my daughter looked up at the cedar sign. Dad, she asked, does it mean no one's allowed to come here ever again? I laughed softly and ruffled her hair. Of course not, kiddo. They just have to knock first. Veronica, taught me a truth I won't forget. Not as a lawman, and not as a man. You don't lose freedom all at once. You lose it inch by inch, signature by signature, silence by silence. And if you're not paying attention, you wake up one day to find a stranger standing on your land with a clipboard telling you it isn't yours anymore. Here's the real takeaway. Protect what matters. Your home, your peace, your rights, because no one else will do it for you. Know the law, use the law, and don't back down. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with a community bully or an HOA that tried to push you past your breaking point? Tell me your story in the comments. Let's talk about where the line between community and criminal truly lies. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss another unbelievable story like this one. There will always be Veronicas in the world, but as long as there are people willing to stand up for what's right, they never truly win.